But even if we are increasing production, we've got to get started now decreasing our use and making our economy more efficient. And so that's why we need to invest in infrastructure like high-speed rail that will allow us to choose the option of taking the train. And if more and more facilities like that are available, that's going to be good, as I said, for the economy of the region, and it's going to be good for individual lifestyles because people aren't going to be stuck in traffic for 2 hours. It'll increase productivity. People will get on to work on time a lot faster. They'll be less aggravated, right? Now, Joe, in terms of the high-speed rail here, do you have something specific to say?
Make it real simple. Think of the interstate highway system in the 50s. What you did is you picked the portions of where you could begin to build where there was the most likely to have the heaviest traffic so that people would use it the most, and then just built that out. What we did is we picked, the Department of Transportation picked the Orlando-Tampa route, Tampa-Orlando, because you were most ready, your plans were the most advanced, and the objective is it's not just going to be here, it's all the way going to come around all the way head up to going down to Miami as well. Well, that's why we picked California. California, Mr. President, there's over a $2 billion investment because they had plans. They're ready to go. And I might add, they're both Republican governors. So we didn't pick this based on politics. So I mean it sincerely. So we're picking the places that make the most sense, have the highest density, are ready to go. And there's been $55 billion worth of requests coming from the states. The good news about that, Mr. President, is we're also funding, with some of the money, planning efforts because some of the plans aren't completed enough. And lastly, Mr. President, we are making a big difference with a portion of this money, over $1 billion of the $8 billion, on taking railroads, for example, from Richmond to Washington, go 65 miles an hour. By getting that up to 110 miles an hour, you take a whole lot of cars off the highway. It becomes economically reasonable to do it. So we're taking corridors that, in fact, exist where we can increase the mileage enough that it can make a difference on congestion. And I'll point out one thing. I-95, and you all know I-95 on the other side of the state, I-95 going all the way up at Marway in the congested areas costs $22 million per lane to build per mile. You can build this railroad for less than $2 million in that. So it makes sense. It's where it works, and we're going to have to build it out.
Good. Let me just say, by the way, give a compliment to Vice President Biden. He and his team have overseen the Recovery Act. You have not seen scandal break out on a huge endeavor. People complain a lot about how government works and wastes money, etc. The truth is that if you look at how the recovery dollars have been spent, they have been spent the way they were promised. And there's complete transparency, so you guys can go on the White House website and look at every single project that has been awarded a Recovery Act grant. Every single one. And scrutinize them. You know who the contractors are. You know who's doing the work. You know when it's supposed to be finished. So you can check out all this stuff, and you will be able to monitor how the high-speed rail project here is operating just by going to our website. All right, it's a young lady's turn. All right, let me. It's a woman's turn. So. All right. How about? All right. She's jumping up and down right here. There we go. Wow. All right, sir, but you can't blow your whistle, no. All right.
President Obama, my name is Rashonda Williams. I'm from Kissimmee, Florida. I don't know if Miss Chen has given you the poem that I wrote you.
Not yet.
Miss Chen. She came to the Center for Drug-Free Living over in Orlando.
Okay.
And I wrote a poem for you winning the presidency. I framed it up and put on a nice background. But my question is, and I told her to give it to you.
Okay, I'll be looking for it.
So you asked Tina for that. My question is, my brothers are in and out of jail with the drugs, the selling of the drugs. And a lot of them can't get jobs coming out. So the only thing they know is to go back to what they're used to because they're felonies. My brother is 27. He has 33 felonies. Drug felonies, mind you. So what I'm saying is there anything that could be put into motion that can get these guys coming from prison, get in a system where they can get hired and get their self-esteem built back up so they don't have to go back out the street to sell drugs? Because if they don't hire them, all they're going to do is continue to sell the drugs. So we need some kind of company that can teach these gentlemen coming out some kind of trade that would keep them from going back out and selling these drugs.
Okay, well, first of all, I look forward to reading your poem. Look, we've got a great challenge in particularly our inner city communities. But actually, if you go to rural communities in the Midwest right now, they may be selling different drugs, but you're seeing some of the same patterns. Joe and I were campaigning in Iowa, and you'd go into small towns where you wouldn't think there'd ever be a problem with the drug trade, and the methamphetamine trade was identical to the crack trade in the big cities. Same patterns of young people getting drawn in. So a couple of things have to happen to deal with this problem. Number one, the single most important thing we can do is to make sure that our very young children are getting a healthy start in life and that their parents or parent or caregiver have the support that's necessary so that they can stay on a straight path of success in school. Because if young people, if their minds are active and they're doing well in school, they are less likely to fall prey to either using drugs or deciding to deal in drugs. And that's why I mentioned yesterday, the single best anti-poverty program around is a world-class education. And that's why we're going to invest in early childhood education. That's why we are reforming and pushing states and communities to reform how education works. And by the way, we've gotten into trouble sometimes, not just from conservatives, but sometimes from liberals, because we're trying to shake up low-performing schools. People say, well, why don't you just give them more money? And my attitude is, you know what? We can give more money to schools. That's important. Smaller class sizes, better classrooms, all those things I care deeply about. But that money will not make a dime's bit of difference if we're not also reforming how kids are learning, making sure that our teachers know their subject matter and that they know the best ways to teach, making sure that parents are staying on top of kids and instilling a sense of excellence and performance in those youth. So that I want to make that point first because, frankly, it would be so much easier to work with your brother if he hadn't gone to jail in the first place to get a job. 33 felonies is a lot. I mean, that's a long rap sheet, which means that it's very I'm just being realistic. If I'm a business owner, and I'm saying to myself, right now the unemployment rate is 10%, so there are a whole lot of folks who've never been to jail who are looking for a job. It's hard for me to say, I'll choose the guy who went to jail instead of the person who never went to jail and has been laid off. Now, having said that, what is also true, what you say is exactly right, that if we can't break the cycle, then all we're doing is just churning folks in a revolving door through the jail system, back on the streets, back to dealing drugs, back to... And, you know, this is part of my faith, my religious faith, but you don't have to be religious to, I think, believe in the idea of redemption, that people can get a second chance, that people can change. So One of the things that we've done is actually Vice President Biden, myself, some Republicans, Sam Brownback, for example, of Kansas, have worked together to promote what we call the Second Chance Act, which links ex-offenders with programs that can provide them with skills, that can provide them with opportunities to get some work experience, and then can essentially certify that they are ready for the workplace, and then trying to encourage private sector companies to hire some of these ex-offenders. The program is not as well funded as I would like. We'd like to see if we can do more with it. It has to be done in a partnership with state and local communities, but